I don't know. You know, I don't really know enough about the issue. It well may be.
The founder of Ben&Jerry's just doesn't know. We'll discuss his ignorance in this video. But first, real quick, if you haven't seen it, Ben&Jerry's ice cream, their company CEO, his name is David Stever, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He was just fired by their parent company, Unilever. Ben&Jerry's is claiming that their CEO basically was fired due to his woke activism. It's probably true, but who really cares? Because we all know he's taken the company way too far down the path of the left. When I was looking at this whole thing, my first inclination was to think that it was all unworthy of any attention. For all, Ben&Jerry's is just an ice cream company. I'd like to think that we have more important trees to chop down. But then I saw Ben Cohen of Ben&Jerry's on Piers Morgan's show. I was astonished. You have to see the blatant hypocrisy and the virtue signaling on full display here. Wait till you see these clips. And notice the most aggravating thing of all, to me at least, these wealthy woke people are only interested in having you, just you, us, sacrifice your children, our children, for their cause. When it comes time for them to genuinely show that they believe in what they are preaching, the genuine participation of their own families would never even be a consideration. They show you that their politics are merely about pushing a narrative to sell a product. Meanwhile, we're the ones left with a mess to clean up. Take a look at a few clips of Ben Cohen of Ben&Jerry's and watch how he eventually regresses and reveals his true nature. He starts out fine, and that's for the first clip, but then it all pretty much goes to hell after that.
Ben Cohen, first of all, thank you for coming on. As you know, I ripped into you in a New York Post column, I think it was a year or two ago, about your wokist activities and was extremely uncomplimentary. So I admire a man who's prepared to come and face the music. And feel free to rip me back. Why don't you just sell ice cream? I mean, why? I mean, I like your ice cream. I've eaten a lot of your ice cream. I will continue to eat it despite your wokeism. But that's why I think I ended my column for the Post. It's like, why should an ice cream company feel it's part of their remit to constantly harangue us about issues and social activism?
Well, we're talking about standing up for what I thought were basic American values of freedom, justice, equality. Business, as I say, is the most powerful force in the society. Business controls our legislation through lobbying. It controls who gets elected through campaign donations. Business is a very political creature. It's just that usually it's done covertly. And at Ben&Jerry's, we do it overtly. And we say we are a values-led company.
All right, Ben is correct here. There are many businesses who affect politics, whether intentionally or unintentionally, by means of using their resources to influence our politicians and change public policies to suit their needs. And so many times we're not aware of what they are doing because they are doing these things covertly. If Ben&Jerry's wants to campaign for progressive politics, fine by me. It's his right. And I genuinely do believe the left and the right do complement each other in different ways. We do, at times, have a need for independence and the preservation of our freedoms. And then there's times when we do have a need for government intervention to settle matters. But I've definitely said this a million times. I will die on this hill. Progressives have the right intentions. They just have incredibly bad solutions. Today's progressives aren't the FDR progressives of the past. It's pretty clear that today's progressives are a combination of the influence of Chinese bots, money from Qatar, anti-intellectual Marxist theory, and insincere transnational corporations who have been pressured by ESG or other things, and those people will do anything to increase profits. Times have changed. Their solutions never help to alleviate problems. They exacerbate them. People don't walk away from progressive campaigns smarter and more more informed. They walk away misinformed and for the worse. Virtue signaling accomplishes nothing, and the policies that progressives implement end up usually doing more damage to everyone in the long run. Ben should have just gotten up and walked away from this interview at that point, and he might have saved his reputation. But unfortunately for him, the interview kept going, and as you're going to see, enormous questions arise. For example, what happens when the driving force behind the millions of dollars being put into our political operations to get your children to sacrifice their bodies to transmutilation is being put there by people who would never, ever sacrifice their own children? Ben is going to get tripped up in his own logic and expose himself as just one of these people. He's a fraud. If the situation ever arose where he would need to prove to anyone that he genuinely believes in what he's doing, he would sooner abscond. Take a look at this clip.
These are the values that drive us, along with making great ice cream and making a profit. And
But are you also a hypocrisy company? Right? I'll give you an example. On Independence Day, the great day in America's calendar, Ben&Jerry's demanded that Mount Rushmore be returned to Native Americans. And it all sounded, okay, you've got this big speech you guys made, and you want stolen indigenous land to be returned. You want to dismantle white supremacy systems of oppression. And then somebody went, well, hang on a second. Hang on. Because Ben&Jerry's corporate HQ in Vermont is built on the ancestral home of the Abenaki people, where 3,200 still reside. And they've now demanded reparations from you. We are a place-based people, they said. We are the ones who are in this place. So I'm assuming that as part of your civic duty for American values, Ben, you will be returning your HQ to the Abenaki people as a matter of urgency. Will you?
Well, the point that we've been making is that
well, hang on. Are you going to return your building to the people on whose land is put? Well, it's a serious question.
No, but what we're trying to say is that the U.S. Made treaties with Native Americans that the U.S. has kind of ignored.
So, according to Ben, the U.S. should give land back to Native Americans because they are ignoring treaties. Evil U.S. But when Ben himself is asked to give back land to Native Americans, he won't. He'll go ahead and hide behind land laws and tell us that the U.S. is evil and wrong for hiding behind land laws. Ben might be trying to say something here, but he has just contradicted himself in a glaring way. What he actually did is show everyone that he'll hold someone else responsible to obey his virtues, but he won't genuinely live them himself. This is textbook progressivism for today. Anybody can step up on a soapbox and scream injustice. History is full of injustices for every race and sex at different points and times. Not exclusive to America in the big picture. The question is, do you really care about your stances and do you live out your values? If you don't, you can't be upset when people point out that it's obvious your political agenda has been crafted for some type of self-serving purpose. In this case, it's profits. And it only gets worse for Ben, too. Take a look at how he regresses even more.
Ben, do you think that some of the positions that Ben&Jerry's took, take the issue of transgender athletes in women's sport, for example. Pretty much everyone I know now, even Gavin Newsom has done a U-turn on this, who's the king of woke in terms of politics. Do you think, with reflection, that it is grotesquely unfair for biological males who identify as trans women to compete in women's sport?
I don't really know enough about the issue.
But it's a Ben&Jerry's policy, isn't it? Like, you support it.
It well may be, but all I'm saying is that I personally, not positively, no.
Wow.
I think that I would kind of leave it to the people that are playing the sports.
I would kind of leave it to the people playing the sports. This is a prime example of a progressive getting caught and not having any logic. Suddenly, when big government is no longer the answer, they can't rationalize it, their head almost explodes, but then they resort to being libertarians. I wonder if he would say the same thing about abortion, too. I mean, would he just like to let people settle abortion for themselves? Because that is precisely what the right wants to do. Abortion is not a federal issue. It wasn't written into our Constitution. The states, and by extension the people, should be allowed to determine their own fates. I'm pretty sure Ben doesn't want the people to decide for themselves with respect to abortion. He wants big government to intervene and force everyone to accept a behavior that a solid 50% plus of the public abhors. And that solid 50% includes women, because the left likes to pretend that pro-life women don't exist. What's even more amazing here, as we're going through this, it's becoming crystal clear that Ben has never even thought about any of his political positions. He's brazenly championing progressive values. He's putting himself on a pinnacle of virtue and plastering them all over his website, and the man has never even given most of them a single thought. There's 8th grade debate teams who would put him down for the count right now.
You are the Ben of Ben and Jerry's. And yet here you are, apparently, seemingly oblivious to these very strident but controversial positions that your company is taking. Do you not feel a little bit queasy about that?
Well, I believe in transgender rights. I know that the company believes in transgender rights.
The question here isn't whether Ben believes in transgender rights. It's crystal clear that Ben doesn't believe in any of the progressive values that he embraces on his website or purports to. Here's the question. The question is, do any of you believe that Ben has any genuine political values at all? Or is he just virtue signaling in order to maintain profits for his company? I think it's obvious. He's not a sincere person. He has a certain Santa Claus-like countenance that probably earns him favor for being affable in the eyes of the public. But the moment he opens his mouth, we all see that he is not a serious person. Really deceptive. It also begs the question, if he so earnestly believes in transgender rights, would he allow one of his own teen children to get mutilated in order to affirm his or her beliefs? Or would Ben instantly confront the reality of gender dysphoria and get his own kid some help? I think you and I know the answer. He would fly his kid to the best clinic available, probably somewhere in a Scandinavian country that has made the data publicly available on the dangers on the promotion of transgender surgery, while our own scientists hide the data from our own citizens and kids. All so they can keep the profits and keep the narrative rolling. It's sick. We have a cancer in this country, people. It's called the Progressive Party. Political ideas and platforms are emergent. They change over time. Progressive Party has changed and is no longer the famed Progressive Party of FDR. We are no longer looking at serious people who genuinely want to use the government for social change and for the greater good. Today's Progressive Party is an altogether deceitful animal. The internet and advances in social media, today's Progressive Party has become infiltrated by Chinese bots, beholden to Qatar money, dumbed down by pseudo-intellectual Marxist ideology, and embraced by transnational corporations who want to secure profits from a very gullible section of the American public. Ben just proved it all. Watching him was a disgrace. And that's it for this video. Appreciate you watching. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, I would appreciate it. See you in my next one.